Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, Run Blog Run, back in San Jose, California after 5 weeks in Oregon. Stuart, greetings and salutations.
Yeah, well, I'm back in Oxford after 5 weeks in Oxford.
Yeah, well, you're in the intellectual capital of the world, so why would you want to leave?
Yeah. But look, I have a complaint.
Okay, what I do this time?
There's just too much top quality track and field going on at the moment. Too many people breaking records. I can't cope with it all.
It's really hard. I mean, I got up at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning just so I could get caught up and get a few hours of work in. And there was just story after story. I mean, your fingers were burning, buddy. Hey, we didn't identify this as Athletics Chat 55. 55. Can you believe it, Stuart? 55 weeks of just pure, athletics conversation, and the world is a better place, we hope.
I'm sure it is.
You are right. There is a plethora of events that we have been covering. The last week we've had the Portland Track Classic, the Portland Track Festival, the Stumptown Twilight Meet. We've had Doha. Before that, we had Gateshead. We had European Paralympics. We had Paralympics in Gateshead. And then we had the English trials, right?
Yeah, the European Team Championships and Hangelo, which frankly is a diamond league and everything but men.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's one I don't get. 1 second, I'm just moving. One of my books is going to fly. It's blustery here, and as our friend who wrote Winnie the Pooh would say, it's a blustery day in California. Okay, so I mean, Hangelo. Have you ever been able to go to the meet live?
No, I haven't, but I'd love to.
Yeah, I started going in 2011, and I don't think I missed a year for about 6 years. And it was always that memorial right around Prefontaine. It was right before or after. But it's a glorious meet. And the stadium sits about 12.5, I guess. In honor of Fanny Blankers-Cohen, one of the great European athletes and great Olympians. And, I got to see Haile Gebrselassie in his last Ethiopian trials, which was really pretty neat in 2012. But let's start with, dear friend, the GB 10,000 trials.
Yeah. Well, basically, someone had this great idea that because the 10,000s take quite a long time to run, they slightly affect the program of a 2-day trials. Why not take them out of the main trials and promote them better? And it's worked really well. It was at Highgate last year. I mean, it's moved to Birmingham. Luke Gunn, who is the head coach there, said it's been loaned to Birmingham for 1 year, simply because the nature of the Birmingham stadium enabled them to do it safe in this pandemic year. But and I mean, it's complicated. It's basically the first two are guaranteed selection for the Olympics if they have the time. And there's a third place which is at the discretion of the selectors. So the women's was won by Eilish McColgan. And I mean, what an talented athlete she is. She's going to her third Olympics, one for steeplechase, one for 5,000, and one for 10,000.
Yeah.
And she's a pretty darn good 1,500 runner as well. And of course, people who love the history may remember that 30 years ago, Eilish's mom won the world championship in Tokyo. So a nice historical bit. And then Jess Judd got in second place by a fraction of a second inside the Olympic time. And she is such a lovely person. She's doing a PhD at Loughborough. She just missed out in the 2012 Olympics. She was injured for the 2016 Olympics, third time lucky, and she's going. And at the moment, we don't have anyone who has the qualifying time for the third place. So basically, that is open for the next 3 weeks if anyone can get a race and get the time.
Wow.
The men's situation, Mark Scott went into the trials with the qualifying time, and he was the first Brit home. He actually finished 8th because cleverly, as well as the British trials, they put in the European team 10,000 competition with 3 runners per country. And of course, the big news is that Mo Farah was 20 seconds outside the Olympic qualifying time.
Yeah.
He finished the second Briton, so in that sense, he has satisfied half the criteria. But he is 38 years old. He hasn't run a 10,000 for 4 years. He has had an ankle problem. So I think it's quite a tall order for him in the next 3 weeks to find a 10,000 race and to run 20 seconds faster. And again, if he's only just scraping in, he's not really going to be competitive. And I would have a question as to whether the man who until last Saturday was unbeaten at 10,000 since 2011, would he want to go to Tokyo just to make up the numbers?
Yeah. There's some irony in this whole situation because last Friday, a week ago, on the 29th of, on the 28th of May, his former training partner, Galen Rupp, ran his first 10,000 since 2018. And with a lap to go, Galen had to run 27:56 to make the U.S. trials. He ran he had to run 28 flat. He ran 28.00.37, running his last lap in 64, which I believe is his slowest lap in a 10 since 2009. And he was beat by Sugaro Osaka and then also Jacob Thompson and then a second Japanese runner. And he's 26th on the U.S. list. 24 will make the final. It's ironic that within a week of each other, the two men who got us so excited in 2012, are showing that they're human. My take on Mo is that if it's just a niggle, and his coach Gary can get him a couple more sessions, I think he could run a 27:26, which gives him still time to get himself into shape. Because as we both know, the 10,000 there is going to be one at about 28:15 because it's going to be so awfully hot. And it's the kind of race that Mo has excelled in. And I think he wants to go out fighting. I think his fans would like to see him do that too. I just don't want to see him hurt, So it's your 10,000. I mean, Eilish, I watched her run her first couple 10s in the colonies. She ran at the Peyton Jordan about 4 or 5 years ago. And in every race with Eilish, she is this stunningly beautiful, tall Scotswoman with this huge stride. And she tends to, about 2K before in the 5K and a 10, get desperately behind. And then she somehow wills herself to get close enough that in that last lap, Stuart, she is phenomenal, And I'd also like to see her get the family record of 30:57. She's pretty darn close, man.
Funny thing is, when I talked to her, it always seems to me that she's far more interested in beating her mom's time than any other record.
Yeah, I mean, it's I have not seen them together, but I've seen historical Olympic women athletes and their daughters who are competing together, like Katrin Dora, the former East German marathoner, and her daughter, I think it's Katrin. She's married to a police officer, and the daughter is very talented in her own right, and she's being coached by her parents. The dad used to coach Gesa Kraus. He's one of the head German coaches, and Katrin is the other head German coach. And I've watched the relationship when I'm doing interviews going between mother and daughter and coach and athlete. And from Eilish's very honest conversations about trying to develop a relationship with her mom, and her mom trying to do the same with her. It's very interesting because mother-daughter relationships are fraught with complication in many instances. And an athletic and if adding athletics into it, it's got to be interesting. So I it's I'd love to get them both in a Zoom sometime, and we would have some fun with that. That would be really neat. But congratulations to Eilish. Congratulations to Jess Judd. She is one of our faves, and like that, I want to be able to call her Dr. Judd one of these days. And then Mark Scott. Mark got a bad. When Mark ran 27:10:41, that was impressive. And I am so tired of everybody saying, well, the shoes do this. Yeah, the shoes do a lot. But at the end of the day, you still got to get your legs around 25 laps. And that is just not something 98% of the world can do, it's, so Mark, congratulations. Mo, you need a few more sessions. Listen to Gary and do what he tells you to do this time. And we want to see you in Tokyo. Hengelo, talk to me about Hengelo.
Well, just before we get into the details, there was an incident that happened that I want to ask your opinion on.
Oh, boy.
The women's 800, there was a false start. And Jenny Meadows on commentary said, I think it was a pacemaker. Could you disqualify the pacemaker? Now, there's a question for you.
Wow. I would think you could. But I think common sense would say they're not competing. Let them run. What do they do?
Yeah, well, I think that's what happened.
Okay.
They just restarted it with a green card, which I'm sure Jeff Whiteman, who was the stadium announcer, told everyone that it means that all the runners can work in the U.S.
Jeff, we did an interview last week with Jeff, and he was, he does have a good sense of humor.
Yeah. I suppose you have to start with Sifan Hassan breaking the world 10K record significantly. And shall we try and do that without mentioning shoes and without mentioning Salazar?
Yes.
I mean, it was really interesting that the pacemakers didn't go as far as they were expected to, leaving Sifan to run on her own for 19 laps.
Yeah.
And she just kept going and kept going and kept going. I mean, now with the lights, what your pace is. I mean, she said afterwards, I knew I'd run a good time. I thought I might break the world record, but I didn't really think I'd get as low as that. Her English is not spectacular, and I always feel that you don't quite get the nuances when you get an interview with her in English. But I mean, a great achievement, and again, somebody who in Doha uh, did that remarkable 1500 and 10K.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
in Doha, that was phenomenal, and what she did there over the last 1600 and the 10,000 was brutal. And but in Hangolo, she's quoted in the NN running team press release as saying that with 3 laps to go, she was pretty sure she could get the record. She thought she'd run 29:17. She didn't know how the heck she ran, 29:06. Well, I'll tell you how you ran 29:06, Stefan. You just started kicking like crazy, and
yeah.
she is she has a confidence in her running.
Yeah.
She's worked on her stride. She's got upper body strength and really good core strength. And she's got world records at the mile with the 5K road, now the 10,000, and something else in there. The 1 hour, which the 1 hour is a brutish event. I mean, I did it a half dozen times and came off the track going, yeah, okay, I want to go fishing. I want to take a long nap and go fishing. And so she has the strength, obviously, and the mental powers to really concentrate for close to 30 minutes. And she can inflict the pain in herself to run a fast mile. The mile and the 10,000, totally different feels. It's what did Frank Shorter, the American Olympian, say? He said, running a 5K is like cutting yourself and pulling the knife away, and you feel the pain right then. But running a 10K, it's like you have this really sharp knife, you put it in really slow, and the deeper you go, the more pain you kind of feel. And it's so, hats off to Stefan. I thought that was amazing. And our friend Mondo Duplantis, Mondo Haas 600, 6.10 meters, and lovely pictures of him. Thank you, FBK, and a couple nice videos. But wow, there were some performances. Femke Bull, a nice hurdle opener for her, and then the
three British winners.
Yes, share those with us.
There was Dean Asher-Smith winning the 100 in a time which was okay, but until we heard about a certain Jamaican we'll talk about later doing it ridiculously fast. But one thing I also liked in the 100 is that Daryl Naita had a PR of 11:04.
Wow.
Dina is the only British athlete ever to go under 11 seconds.
Wow.
So Dina is pretty close to that, which is great. Now Jake Whiteman won the 1500 as he did the previous week at the European teams, 3:34.67, saying tonight wasn't about time, it was about racing. I'm not bothered about times this year because the Olympic final will be slow. The British trials will probably be slow. It's about racing. It's about learning to win races.
Yeah.
And, I always think he is such a sensible athlete. Now,
I think you're right.
The two 800s were fascinating because there were 10 British athletes listed. Two didn't make the start line, but in the women's, it was Gemma Reekie, Laura Muir, and Ellie Baker in the first 3 places. Interestingly, in the men's, Elliot Giles, Dan Rowden, and Kyle Langford were 3rd, 4th, and 5th in 147s. So, again, say it's early season. I know that it was Giles' first run of outdoor of the season. But there's no evidence quite that the men are going to dominate the way that I think the women could well do.
Yeah.
I loved the flash quote from Laura Muir, who said, "I tried something different tonight. I was very pleased with how it went, but Gemma beat me again." I just loved the Gemma beat me again. And she wasn't laughing as she said it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall when the two of them go out to dinner with Andy Young afterwards, when they've run together, because it's very rare for them to run together. Because normally Andy organizes, I mean, like, for example, this week, Gemma is running in Marseille and Laura is running in Florence.
Wow.
So that is very often the pattern. And so when they do go out together, Laura was asked again, as she was in Gateshead, will you double up in Tokyo? And at Gateshead, she said categorically she would not run the 5,000, but she said, we haven't decided whether I do the 800. And I think I think she's been honest in saying that. And I think she and Andy are trying to work out the answer to one simple question. Does doing the 800 give me 2 shots at a medal, or does it actually distract me from my best chance in the 1500?
I think that makes tremendous sense. Yeah. I think that when she did the 1,500, 5,000 in the past, it was really putting a lot of pressure on her. The 5,000 is one of those races that takes some time to recover from, especially at the racing level that she's competing at. So how do you do that? How do you do that and come back? How do you do that and compete over a long season? Those are all questions that, you know, we don't have answers for. The European Para Athletics meet. Talk to me about that.
Well, I love the diversity of para athletics, and the thing that you need to remember is that these are real athletes who train just as hard, and in Britain often in the same training group as you know, as the able-bodied or non-disabled athletes. I mean, like Steph Reed used to be in a group with Christian Taylor. He's now moved away, but you know, one of the things that I love is the race running, which is basically for athletes who cannot support themselves to walk, and they run holding onto a tricycle. You know, the athletes who cannot stand up to put a shot, so they do it sitting. The javelin, throwing a javelin from a sitting position because your legs don't work. And, you know, they're real athletes, and just some of the pictures, and a big shout out to the IPC, who were, listen to this, Larry, were producing 1,000 images a day.
Wow.
1,000 images a day. And we need to talk a little bit about Marcus Rem, who jumped 862 with a blade. And I mean, a few years ago, he won the German trials, the German able-bodied trials, and the rules were that he went to the European if he won it, but then they wouldn't select him. The World Athletics have said, it's up to you to prove to us that you don't get an advantage. And you see, I think Rem is very fair when he says, surely it's not on me to prove it. And again, he says, okay, perhaps I do get an advantage bouncing off the Pacific, but watch me running up and compare me with Rutherford or Louvo. I'm not like as balanced as they are. So the advantage I have from one, I lose instantly from the other.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what I've heard him saying, what I think would be great, would be to allow him to compete in some diamond leagues just for the fun of it.
Have they let him do that before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, he said he would love to compete in the Olympics,
Yeah.
even with the condition that he cannot win a medal.
Yeah.
You know, he said, I would love to be going up against people who are going to jump further than me, just to have that kind of competition, which I don't really get. And see, another thing he would say is if the prosthetic gives you such an advantage, why are all disabled athletes not jumping the same distance? And you know, you have to say that there is a talent there for
Yes.
long jump, and I have great sympathy with his position. I'm not sure I know instantly the right answer, but I have a lot of sympathy for him.
Last weekend I watched Blake Leaper run a 400 in 46.99, and he beat all the able-bodied guys. It didn't become apparent that he had some advantage until the last probably 50 to 80 meters. But the thing is to get in that kind of shape, these guys are in, and women are in tremendous physical shape, tremendous core. And because they've got to lift, they've got to use stomach muscles. They've got to get themselves around the track, and it's no mean feat. It's really difficult. So
I remember once hearing, I asked Tatiana McFadden a question, which I used the word disabled. And she said, I don't actually see myself as disabled. You know, I often find myself in the gym lifting weights next to a so-called able-bodied man. There's only one difference. I'm usually lifting heavier weights.
Yeah, no. I mean, the articles that you did on the para-athletic events in Gateshead and the para-athletics games of the Europeans were fascinating. The pictures were absolutely gorgeous, and in many cases, better than the pictures of able-bodied athletes. The World Athletics gives photos to some people at some events, and the IPC folks, because they want the coverage, will give photos to just about everybody. And you know, so you try to figure it out, you know.
By the way, just as a quick aside, since we're talking about long jump, excited to see Jasmine Sawyers jumping 690.
Well, I saw the Backstreet Boys had her on an Instagram program today, and she was smiling, she was beaming, she was ebullient. You know, so that move to Claremont, Florida with Lance Brauman, coach. I mean, he disassembled everything, so it was pretty cool.
Jasmine once stood me up for an interview in Oslo because she had been asked to sing at a function.
Oh, wow.
Because she's an almost professional singer. I mean, she did the interview later, but I thought, you know, that is a pretty good excuse for turning down an interview, that you've actually been asked by the meet organizer, can you sing at a concert tonight?
No, I think that's a worthy one. And she's always a lot of fun. I mean, we've watched her come so close to things. 690 means she's in that ball game again.
And then she's in the Olympics.
Yes. Does it mean she?
There will not be 3 British athletes who beat that.
Is Shara still competing this year?
She is, but she was ill last year, and she really hasn't got back. She's only done 640 so far this year.
Yeah. The paras, I'm just trying to, there was a question I had, I put a list down, and I'm just trying to double check. On the paras, What was the best performance you thought at the European Paralympics?
Well, I think it would have to be REM. But equally, you know, I mentioned the road running. When you take somebody who's so disabled that they can't actually support their body weight to walk for any distance, and yet they find a way of running 100 meters, pushing a tricycle in about 13 seconds. I mean, I just think that is phenomenal, and how wonderful is our sport that can facilitate people. And actually, Kaylee, who won that event, has been tweeting British athletics in the Diamond League every day, saying, "Please, can we have a road running race in the not the anniversary games meet?" So good on her. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's the diversity and the fact that there's a place for everybody. Love it.
The para-athletics is very popular in Europe and the UK. And when you went to Doha for the World Champs, were there many media following the events?
There were 3 British writers there, and there were 2 of us in Dubai last year. There was Ben from the Telegraph and me, but BBC had a good team out, so they were covering it quite well. I mean, in terms of watching the event here, it was on Channel 4 website, but not actually on television. It gets a lot more coverage here, I think, than in most countries. The event was in Poland, and Poland topped the medal table, but clearly quite a commitment there. I mean, with us, para-athletes are funded on the same basis as non-disabled athletes.
Okay. That's something that I did not know. Let's talk about one of our faves, Eileen Doyle. A 400 meter hurdle specialist, but really one of the finest 400 meter relay 4x4 runners in the world. Was it 10 or 11 medals she's won?
11.
11. That's just blows my mind. Why don't you begin?
Well, can I begin by telling you what a nerd I am? Because I actually counted. I have seen her run 150 times.
Wow.
In 17 different countries.
Wow.
I first saw her in the probably in the British Championships about 2008. And she, you know, she's got to 4 Olympic and world finals, never quite got a medal. Didn't run her best races probably in those finals. Interestingly, I had a long chat with her this week, which will appear in articles shortly. The one regret she has in her career is that in Monaco, she ran 54:09, making a mistake in the final hurdle, which would have otherwise would have taken her under 54.
Wow.
Basically, she had a son in 2009, and she just found that as she thought about it, she tried to get back. She trained. She and her husband, who was her coach, Brian Doyle, just sat down, and Brian said to Ailey, "Why do you keep doing this?" And they sort of together decided, look, you've got your 11 medals. You've been in 2009 to 2017 World Championships. You've been to 2 Olympics. Is that enough? And she said, yeah. And but also, and one often says this, but it's so totally true in her case. She's one of the nicest people in the sport. Um, just somebody who is always a delight to chat to, who's always happy to talk, no matter how she's run. The kind of person who, in a hotel lobby, will chat to you. Um, and I said to her when we spoke, I think I'm more sad than you are that you won't be on the circuit anymore. But yeah, a lovely person, a great athlete, and as I wrote in the first article, some people would say she was lucky to be running relays at the time.
Yeah.
Britain was strong, but I would actually say that I've never seen her run a bad relay leg, and there have been relays since then that we didn't get medals at that I'm absolutely certain we would have done if she had been running the first leg.
I believe I saw her hand off to Christine Ohuragu.
Mm-hmm.
I'm got to think that's Osaka. And I'm totally impressed. And I've watched her compete.
Yeah.
First really got to talk to her in 2014 in Glasgow, and always found her comments thoughtful. She's a keen observer of the sport. She should be an honorary team captain for a long time to come, because they should just say, hey, why don't you talk to the women before the 4x4 and help them keep their shit. It's just
sure.
She's a warrior.
Mm-hmm. And just one other thing about her, her route into the sport is quite different from your typical American college scholarship and so on. She was a full-time teacher, part-time athlete, and then in 2010 she just took a big decision that she would give up the teaching job. She would move from Scotland to work with Malcolm Arnold down in Bath, not really knowing whether she was good enough.
Wow.
Took the gamble, and it all came off wonderfully.
Wow. We're down to about 3 minutes, dear friend.
We just got to mention Shelley Ann Fraser Price.
Oh my gosh, 1063.
1063, yeah. And because of various issues with the previous world record, it's interesting to see that people were tweeting the real world record.
Yeah, and they're talking about for people who are, under 40. Back in 1988, Florence Griffith Joyner ran the current world record, and it was a 1049, and the
1049.
There's been questions about a malfunction on the wind timing devices for years, and I've heard every explanation, including swirling winds and all kinds of crazy stuff. But the Jamaican pocket rocket, Shelley Ann Fraser Price, real Shelley Ann FP. She had just. But what did she have in the last 2 weeks? She had a third in Doha, and then she came back and our third in Gateshead. Then she came back and she won in Doha, and then she absolutely blasted it in Jamaica, the 1063, and she's got the number 2 or number 4 time all times, and just totally impressive.
We should ask Statsman John, but it's a fascinating thing that within 2 weeks she ran, I think it was 11:45 in Gateshead and 10:63 in Kingston.
And then we'll finish off with one of our American friends, Trayvon Bromell, who's had injuries since he ran in Manchester in 2016. Just ran a 977, looked fantastic. And he's been telling anybody who would listen that he's going to show some pretty special things this year. Well, he's already doing it. We've got some big times already this season. And thus ends Athletics Chat 55, my friend. Stay safe. We'll be covering some meets this week, and we'll have more great track and field to talk about. So talk to you soon. This is Larry Eder. This is RunBlogRun's Athletics Chat 55. Stuart Wire in Oxford. He hasn't left, same as it ever was. Larry Eder in San Jose, California. I've been in Portland and Central Point and Eugene. Stay safe. If you like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you love us, subscribe to the YouTube channel so more people can see us speaking. You know, it's Stuart and I just have so much fun each week solving the world's athletic problems. Just think if they would give us real global problems. You know, we could help Boris Johnson, you know. All right, my friend, be good. Stay safe.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, sports fans, Larry Eder again, Athletics Chat 55. And we've been doing this for 55 weeks. And also, but this is the epilogue. This is Larry's monologue, as everybody says, you know. I'm shocked. I guess, you know, I talk a lot. Okay, so let's begin. Let's go from the very beginning. The Mueller Great Britain Olympic 10,000 meter trials was held on Saturday. Eilish McColgan won on the women's side. Jessie Judd was second. Eilish's mom was Liz McColgan, who won the world champs in 1991 and who still has the family record at 30:57. We hope Eilish can soon get that. Eilish has been an Olympian at the 3,000 meter steeple, the 5,000 and the 10. And we look forward to her success at the 10. Jess Judd is a PhD from Loughborough, working on a PhD in Loughborough. And we've seen her around for a long time. Great cross-country runner. Gutty, 1,500, 5,000. Nice to see her move up to the 10. On the men's side, Mark Scott won the men's British trials in 27:49.90. In 27:50.60, Mo Farah. Now, our buddy Mo, who hadn't run a 10,000 in 4 years, this was his first defeat at the 25 lapper since 2011 in Daegu. Big deal. And also, he did not run the 27:28 Olympic qualifying time. He's 22 seconds off that. And what's he going to do? Some people call it the end of his career. We think that in the next couple of weeks, he'll find another place to run a 10 and then see what he can do, depending on how his ankle's going. But it's also irony of ironies that his former training partner, Galen Rupp, the 2012 silver medalist to Mo's gold medal in the 10,012 in London, ran a 28.0037, just missing the U.S. trials qualifying standards. And both great guys, love to watch them race, really enjoyed watching them develop. I just think we're getting to a different chapter in their athletic careers. Hangelo, as Stuart said, should be in every other word, it's a Diamond League meet. It's a fantastic event. The Fanny Blanker Cohen's games in Hengelo in the Netherlands is gorgeous. Hengelo is a fun little town, great Grolsch beer, and fun little hotels, cows with cattle with big horns, and Grolsch beer and food from the Netherlands. Pretty cool. But great performances. A world record from our friend Sifan Hassan, 29:06.82 in the 10,000 meters. She now has the world records, the 1 hour run, the 1 mile run, 5K road, and the 10,000 meters on the track. Pretty impressive. In 2019, she won gold in the 10,000 and the 1,500. And then our friend Mondo Haas 600, as they call him on Twitter, Mondo Duplantis, went 6.10 meters, a second highest jump of anybody active right now. So it's pretty rocking. Duplantis is looking fantastic. And the folks at Puma are happy they brought in a few pole vaulters. The European Para Athletics, some really good performances and fascinating races, great stories. I think that our friend Stuart has put this together well and encourages us to see other parts of the sport. And that's really, really important. Ali Doyle has won 10 relay medals in European Championships, Worlds, and Olympics, and Commonwealth Games. She's also a 400-meter intermediate hurdler, and her son is about 4, and her husband and her decided, you know what, it's time. And she's having a difficult time, I would think, being away from the sport, but we wish Ali the very best. And we thank her for her love of the sport. She's a great role model. We want her to enjoy her child and some time with her coach husband. And then some big performances this weekend. 10:63 by Shelly Ann Fraser-Price. Zoom, 4th fastest ever. Fantastic. Did it in Jamaica. And, you know, she's gone from 11:45 in the cold and the rain to a nice big win in lovely Doha to 10:63. And then on top of that, Trayvon Bromell, who's had injury issues since he was in Manchester in 2016, is definitely back, setting a PB of 9:77. So running faster than he ever has. He's being coached by Raina Ryder at the Tumbleweed Track Club in Texas. And finally, Sydney McLaughlin, who's being coached now by Bobby Kersey, and set PBs at the 100 hurdles, and I believe the 100 meters as well. She went 52.83, stumbling over the last hurdle, which is the only thing that kind of knocked the race off a little bit. 52.83, world leader. Go, Sid, go. All right. It's been a great week in athletics. There'll be more to come. Watch us this week. The NCAAs are coming up in the next weekend. As we were recording, we got the sad news that Andy Stubbs, a longtime manager of some of the finest athletes in the world, had died peacefully in his sleep. Andy was a bear of a man, great smile, and honest to a T. He introduced me to Thomas Walsh, among others, who I really enjoy. And Andy took care of his athletes. And he wasn't afraid to have a beverage with some of the media people too. So Andy, we're going to miss you. We'll keep you, your brother Peter, and the family in our thoughts and prayers. This is Larry Eater for RunBlogRun signing off. Stay safe. If you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love us, subscribe on YouTube. Stay safe.